Okay, so PBIS, we had what we called Kenwood tenets, which were the guidelines that our students were going to follow in our building. And they were by our acronym BLUE, B-L-U-E, and it was like be prepared, live responsibly. And what ended up happening is it's very difficult to remember those terms and those rules. So as the Virtues Committee, we decided to try and rewrite those tenets based on virtues. So we're still using our acronym BLUE because that's our school color, and our mascot is a bluebird. So we're still using BLUE as our acronym, but we're going to ask our students to call on their virtues instead of trying to follow these specific statements for guidelines and rules in our building. And that's going to talk about what virtues we chose.
At the time before, when we first started talking about this, we didn't even know what our tenets were. And it was funny because before we were asked about our tenets, I was surveyed. A lady came into the school and surveyed the students in my class, and she asked us what our tenets were, and none of us knew what it was. But because I read a lot of stuff, I knew what they were. It was be there and prepared, live responsibly. I can't remember. E was like, I don't know, at the time I had remembered. I've even forgotten now. And since it was something that no one even really knew was there, and it was just a poster that kind of hung on the wall, we came up with words that are common words and words that the students can relate to better. And we talked about beauty being the first thing, talking about the individual and the environment. And like Rebecca, I remember she had something to say about the beauty when we were actually talking about it.
Yes, I did. Beauty. What to say about beauty? Beauty can be found in some of the most unusual places. You can find beauty in some of the people that you would never think are beautiful, like people that are different, the Gothic people. You never know what they've gone through, where they've been, what they can do as a person. People just look at them on the outside and be like, oh, that's not beautiful, that's hideous. But people might have a beautiful soul, and beauty is something that you can find anywhere and stuff like that. And I think that that was a good start for our BLUE. I think that was a good virtue to choose because not a lot of people try to find the beauty in others. They just try to find the bad and not look at the good, which is what the Virtues group stands for, looking at the good and everything.
And the L, we chose loyalty, and the reason why we say that is because it's very important for the students to be loyal to each other and the teachers too, and for us to have a relationship and to trust each other and to change the environment in the school. The first thing we need to do is be loyal to one another, because we can't change anything unless it starts with us, and it starts with our relationships on the inside. And that's one of the things we really need to work on, because we realized that there was kind of like a disconnect between the teachers and the students. And with Virtues, there really has been a change in the way that teachers and students communicate with each other, because now we have something that we can call upon just to start off a conversation, just to say thank you for your kindness, or thank you for helping me out for this, that, and the other. Then we did understanding, because like Rebecca said earlier, we all have our different experiences. And in our Virtues group, we have the most diverse set of students. We have students who come from different parts of the world, who come from different areas of the county, and in order for us to get along, we just have to be able to understand and kind of sympathize with one another so that we can move forward, because on any given day, an individual might be mad and might react because of something they've gone through. But if we have understanding, it's not going to negatively impact us, because we're all human. So that was understanding. And endurance, because the Kenwood environment has gone through so much. It could be something as small as not being able to have our Powder Puff game, which is the seniors versus juniors game that fundraises for Toys for Tots. That was devastating to most of the students, but we endured things like that, and we still had a great year, the seniors and the juniors. And also enduring the changes and rules. The class of 2009 specifically had a lot of changes that we had to endure because we're the first class who had to pass our HSAs to graduate. And we've gone through the changes of all the standard testing, from it being MSPAP to MSAs to HSAs, so on and so forth. So the class of 09 really knows about endurance, and we're trying to like have that same principle with everyone in the school. So that's blue, and they're very simple words that everyone can understand, and it doesn't matter your level of understanding, as long as you have something to connect it to, we're moving forward.
One, has it had an impact on things like discipline, attendance, any of those kind of issues with the students here at Kenwood?
I think that anytime anyone can make a connection with a child, that learning improves, attendance improves, behavior improves, and the Virtues Project is a very easy way to make that connection with anyone, and especially with a child in your room, and it happens naturally. So, you know, are there statistics that say that? I can't say that we have hardcore statistics, but we all know as educators, that connection is the key. And if a child feels valued in your room, then they are going to learn more. If they are dehumanized in your room, then we can destroy them instead of uplift them. And we've been able to do that with the Virtues.
For me, and I'm sure most of the other teachers that have a Virtues classroom or teach Virtues, because I've changed the way I communicate with my students, I have cut down tremendously on the conflicts that I have. Instead of, you know, saying, you know, sit down or get out, and not that I use those terms all the time, but I have learned how to communicate with students so that I don't get to that point. And so for me, if I can cut down on the number of conflicts I have in my class, and another teacher can cut down on the number of conflicts just through the way that we communicate with students, then definitely it makes an impact on discipline. And if students are here and they feel valued, again, just to reiterate what Nancy said, they're gonna come to school. They're gonna wanna be in my class. They're not gonna cut my class because they feel safe there and they feel like they're being acknowledged and they're valued.
And the Virtues Project actually eliminates the power struggle. So many times as adults, in our family situation as well as in a classroom situation, we get into that power struggle. The student doesn't want to, lose. The teacher doesn't want to lose. So it ends up being, well, I'm the teacher, I'm the student, and that power struggle, which is where most of our behavior comes from. So if you can eliminate that, and that's what the Virtue Project does, because you can communicate more effectively, it gets rid of that power struggle. So there's a lot less discipline referrals if you're able to do that in your classroom.
There's a lot more, like, you also have to think about self-discipline and like between peers, because there are times when we're in the hallway and going from class to class, seeing as though we only have 5 minutes to get from one end of the building to the other, it can be really, really frustrating. And at the beginning of the school year, before the Virtues Project was really big in the school, you would hear things like, move, get out of my way, what are you doing? Negative statements. And as Virtues was introduced to the students and was being used more and more, statements changed and they became, could you please be more considerate when you're walking down the hallway? Can you take that conversation aside maybe? And it really does affect the way the person is going to react. Instead of having like a negative conflict in the hallway trying to get from one class to the next, it's a constructive conversation and you're building on each other, please be more considerate. And then the next time when somebody moves or, adjusts themselves so that you can get to your class, the statements become, thank you, that was very kind of you. And these are all virtue statements that we use. They might not have the specific format that we're taught, but that was just a guideline. And now we're able to adapt it and use it, in a more natural way. So.